Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Um, Welcome to navigating career uh, transitions and strategies for success. Thank you for the thumbs up. Please note that this session will be offered in English only, and the French session will take place tomorrow. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I'm on the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam nations. The Coast and Salish peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and I encourage all of you to acknowledge the land that you're on as well. As we move through today's session, please share your questions by using the Q&A button in the language of your choice. You can vote for the questions you like by clicking the thumbs up button. As with all Fin sessions, this session will be recorded, so you can go back and check on the recordings and the insights at a later date. In addition to this, the recording will be on our YouTube channel. We are also offering another way to learn via podcast. We would also like to note that the PowerPoint presentations for each session is included on our wiki page, so that you can feel free to follow along at your own rate and to improve your learning experience. All the resources shared during this session will be added to our wiki page under resources. My name is Fatima Abdul. I will be your moderator today. Before we get started, I have a couple of quick polling questions. This is not a test and it is not mandatory. The question is, has your position been affected as a result of financial constraints? You should see a little pop-up come up and you can answer. Okay, I'm seeing at least 50% of you is not being affected by the fiscal restraints. I'm very happy for you. That's good news. To those whose terms are ending or your position has been affected by the workforce adjustment, my sympathies. I'm also in the same position, so we're all in this together. Today's learning objectives, if we could move to the next slide. Today's learning objectives, we're going to learn to effectively take care of your mental health and well-being during times of uncertainty and learn about support options available to you. Gain knowledge on the best ways to optimize your learning in the Government of Canada, master effective resume crafting techniques for both GC jobs and informal hiring processes, navigate the do's and don'ts of using social media for your job searches and networking. I will now like to introduce Joshua Frame, the founder and national chair of Fin, who will provide some opening remarks.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Fatima. Not actually the founder, but I will say innovator, perhaps, of the FYN. But thank you, everyone, for being here today. I'm Joshua Frame. I'm joining you from the unceded ancestral territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Very pleased and honored to be presenting from this territory. That's a little bit about me on this slide. So I started my career in 2009, way back in the day. So about 16 and a half years ago, and have since spent about half my career in the region, working in the Ontario region, half of it in the NCR, and sort of switched between between the two over time, and between regional management roles, between more of a national function over the last 8 years, and done a variety of things in my career, and really dedicated the last 9 years of my career to building this community and making sure that it's providing just-in-time learning, which is what the real impact, hopefully, of today's session is as you're navigating, what's going on in the GC landscape. Next slide, please. All right, so in terms of navigating career transitions, why now? I think to some extent the opening poll kind of gave you an indication of why now. There is a lot going on in the GC in terms of the hiring landscape, and that affects how you are going to develop your career and build your career and continue your career in the GC. So certainly we've seen reduced departmental staffing. If you go onto GC jobs right now, you're not going to see a ton of processes coming up. You're not going to see a lot of inventories or pools being established. Because departments are generally looking at implementing a reduction of some sort between 2 and 15% over the next few years. We're seeing reductions in term contracts. We've seen over time some term contracts that are slated to be for a fixed period of time that are ended early. We've seen that with a number of departments and agencies. A reduced hiring in terms of casual contracts. Certainly, we've seen reductions in student hiring kind of across the government of Canada. And then obviously the workforce adjustment announcements. There are various trackers, but the government of Canada maintains a tracker of the workforce adjustment announcements, including how many positions have been affected, what the net kind of goal is to reduce in terms of the number of positions, and we want you to understand that landscape and understand what's going on in your department or agency so that you can better prepare yourself for what's coming. If you're not affected by workforce adjustment, you're not having to go through a selection and retention process, you're in a good spot. But if you are going through one of those processes, there is a lot that you can do to prepare yourself. So we will talk about that. But really, how does this affect your career development? I think it affects in terms of kind of realigning your expectations of what the next 18 to 24 months looks like. So it's not, simply a matter of kind of saying, I'm stuck in a position, but it's a matter of navigating exactly, how you can develop even in a time where, say acting roles might be few and far between, there might be a lot less in the way of sort of ways to get sort of ahead as you're trying to just continue your career in the GC over the next while. But how can you prioritize your learning and development to continue your career? So we will talk about that today. Next slide, please. All right, so some situations that you could face in 2026. So potentially you could be facing the end of a term or a casual contract, potentially an organizational restructuring. We've seen a lot of changes across really almost every department and agency in terms of some level of restructuring. We're seeing reductions in terms of the executive structures and how that kind of plays down in terms of realigning branches, divisions, organizations. Workforce adjustment is something that you could be facing or may have already been informed of in your role, or could be informed of at a future time in 2026. And limited career mobility. So for those of us who've been in the federal public service for a while, this isn't sort of our first time experiencing these types of situations. I will say, a lot of this is cyclical, and it's not that, you will never experience this in your career. Again, it will probably happen again. It will probably happen in 10 to 12 years that, governments expand, they stabilize, they contract, and it all kind of goes cyclically. But the good news, there is a lot that you can do to take control of the situation and set yourself up for success. So we will get into that. But definitely looking forward to the rest of this webinar. But certainly set yourselves up for success in terms of the programming that's available to you. So not only with this session today, but we will have future sessions we'll be discussing. And there are a host of other communities and resources that you can access during this time. So make the best use of those to continue a career in the GC. But with that, I will pass over to Sam Harris, who will continue us along this path and talk about navigating change. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. My name is Sam. So I was born and raised on the East Coast in Prince Edward Island, and about 6 years ago, I moved to the West Coast. Like Fatima, I am in Vancouver, and that is where I started my career in the public service. I'm excited to be here with you all today. I've recently joined the Fin team, working as a learning advisor, so I'm super happy about just working with this incredible team and community. And yeah, I guess on that note, let's dive into navigating change. All right. So, as public servants, you're bound to come across some roadblocks, like anyone in their careers. So, some of the things that may prevent you from going in the path you had planned, as Josh and the poll kind of talked about, and we looked at your term might not be extended, your position might be workforce adjusted, and there may be less hiring opportunities. But it's important to note that career paths aren't always linear, and there's not only one path to success. So, your ability to be adaptable to new circumstances, um, embracing the current reality, and being able to tap into some of your resilience and remaining positive is really important. I've found myself in that position before in the past. I had terms not extended, positions that were cut on project work that I thought, this is the end. I won't be able to continue in public service, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I really focused all my attention and resources into what I could do to stay in the public service. That might look like seeking out mentorship and guidance, developing your skills and learning. You've all showed up here today, so congratulations. You're investing in yourself and your learning. Networking, advocating for yourself, and looking at Fin resources. There's so many things, as Josh mentioned, we're going to be having more sessions to come on these topics with the launch of the GC Career Transitions program. And there's many past sessions as well that are available on YouTube or Spotify. So be mindful of those. And, challenges are an opportunity for growth. Um, so be mindful of that. And with that, let's go to the next slide. So the first thing we should look at is acknowledging your feelings. It's normal to feel a range of emotions from anxiety to sadness, and allowing yourself to feel these emotions without judgment is really important. As I mentioned, I went through this myself. The first thing I had to do when I found out my term was ending, it was devastating. I was really sad about that. So I had to process my emotions, um, and seek support, whether that's from friends, family, colleagues, people who are experienced. Maybe you have some colleagues who have been through this sort of thing before and can chat with them about that. Um, Not only can it help you feel less isolated and have some emotional support by leaning on those around you, it can also open up for an opportunity of some really valuable advice on how to navigate the situation. And if you're feeling really overwhelmed, consider reaching out to EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. They can provide strategies to cope with stress and anxiety. And it's important to be mindful of what might be happening, emotionally with burnout as well. Um, Chronic fatigue, lack of motivation, change in appetite or personality. Doing regular check-ins with yourself and those around you on your team who might be impacted by whether it's a term ending, workforce adjustment. It's nice to look out for yourself and those around you and seek support. It's a sign of strength and not weakness for seeking out support. Um, and next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so let's look at what you can control. You find out your term is ending. It's devastating, as we talked about. That's when I'm using that example because I've been in that situation before. So let's focus on the actions you can take. You can invest in yourself, like we talked about. You're here today, coming to sessions like this, updating your resume, learning new skills. Um, but while you're doing that and investing in yourself and your career, also engaging in activities that you enjoy to help you relax, whether that's reading, walking, listening to music. Personally, I play volleyball a few times a week to support my mental health and keep me feeling on track in that sense. Um, Financial assistance and resources, financial stress isn't always talked about. I found that was a huge piece for me personally when I found myself in a position where I was working on a project and the funding got cut, and I was um, yeah, considering what my options were moving forward, what my next source of income was going to be. So reaching out to EAP or professionals in that area with looking at finances and getting assistance on that can really help in that sense as well. Um, yeah, you're here. You're not alone, as Fatima mentioned earlier. So reach out to those around you. There are things you can do to better yourself, whether that's for future positions or, um, yeah, your own personal growth as well. That next slide. All right, and let's look at some new pathways. So ask yourself what you can do to take care of yourself and grow, but also look at your strengths, your weaknesses. Are there areas or gaps that you can identify that you want to work on specifically? Being open-minded, adventurous when exploring next steps. Your adaptability and flexibility will be key moving forward in this sort of scenario. And setting small, manageable goals that can help you feel a sense of accomplishment and progress as well. Um, if your network feels small right now and you're wondering, okay, everyone talks about turning to your network, considering new opportunities you didn't know existed, um, joining committees, volunteering, getting to know new people in whether it's your department or other departments is a great way of building up your network and really just learning about other people and their careers as well, which is nice. I am the co-chair of GovernX, um, and that has been huge for me in terms of expanding my network. And first of all, just doing something I'm passionate about in a leadership role and helping other people and working with like-minded people, which is incredible. But also with that has brought me many opportunities. For example, me working on my dream team right now, the Fin team, which is incredible. And in the past, I've also had opportunities, job opportunities through the people I met within my network, which is really powerful as well. And before I pass it over, I just want to leave you with one thing that might be a bit of a cheesy quote, but it's something that I've kind of kept in the back of my mind during difficult times. I pulled it up here to read it to you. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backwards. When life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means it's going to launch you into something great. So just focus and keep aiming. That's what I tell myself during the really hard times. I need to just focus and keep aiming. And ultimately, that's launched me into the next thing in my life that usually ended up being the best thing that could have happened. So hang in there. I know it's difficult when you're in that situation, but you have support, you're not alone, and it could lead to something great. And with that, I will pass it over to Eric for discussing learning.
Thanks very much, Sam. Good morning if you're in the West. Good afternoon if you're in the East. I'm very happy to be here. I'm speaking to you from the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, namely the Esquimalt and Songhees nations, whose relationship to the land on which the city of Victoria is built continues to this day. I'm the DG of Government of Canada and Public Sector Skills at the Canada School of Public Service, role that I've been in for about 5 years. And I'm just about at 24 years of service in the public service. So I've seen also, like Sam, like Josh, previous fluctuations and periods of stress that look a little bit like this one. And to those of you who are directly impacted, I have particular sympathy, but I know it's hard it can be stressful for everybody to see these changes. I'm also the champion for GovernX, which is the BC instance of the Federal Youth Network. So I champion their work here at the BC Regional Federal Council. this is a role that's new to me, but I'm actually thrilled to be able to provide support on it. I'm going to walk you through today some of the learning resources that are available to you. Most of what I'm going to speak to is not actually CSPS resources, but actually what other things are available to you, including the Federal Youth Network itself. Before we go to the next slide, I'm going to run the poll. We have a poll. This is the question for those of you who have a PMA and a learning plan. What can you add to your learning plan? I'll just give that a few minutes to roll. So I can't see what's coming in here, but I think others here can. Here we go. All right. All right, these are great responses, actually. Departmental learning, career development courses at college, university, networks, and all of the above. And as we're going to see today, I'm going to encourage you to think about all of these. Obviously, you're already ahead of me here, so I'm pleased to see that. Next slide, please. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some offerings that are coming up through the Federal Youth Network itself, and I'm especially excited about the launch of the GC Career Transitions Center of Excellence. This is an initiative that really is here to support you, create a growth-focused environment where you can strengthen your career development skills and build confidence in navigating your career transitions. That's for everybody. If you're navigating a tough situation where your term is ending or you're in a WFA scenario, this is for you. But if you're just thinking about your next career steps, this is also for you. The Center of Excellence is really set up to help reduce stress and uncertainty during periods of change by equipping you with knowledge, skills, and support you're going to need to move forward and find your next role. There's some upcoming workshops. They'll be shared in the LinkedIn group in the upcoming sessions wiki page. And we'd encourage you all to register for upcoming workshops on resume writing and interview preparation. These are starting at the end of March and will run into April. There's also going to be information regarding a session on mental health during periods of change over the next few weeks. I want to stress that these sessions are open to everybody, not just public servants who are affected, anybody else, but even folks that are contemplating entering or re-entering the public service is welcome. These are services that are available to all of you. Next slide, please. All right. So we had a quiz about the learning plan, and I just want to spend a little bit of time on this. If you are in a position where you have a learning plan, I want to emphasize that this is really a great chance to identify and advance your learning goals. I know that in these sessions I have heard often other speakers talk about taking control of your own career, which is great advice, right? So you're going to be the number one person to care about your career, to try and drive it and find the way forward. But this is also true for learning. There are just a few things to think about when you're contemplating your learning plan. It is built into the annual performance management cycle. It does not mean that you just have one chance per year to amend it. It's evergreen. You can always open it again. But this is a really good time of year as we get into the beginning of the new fiscal year to think about what your learning objectives are. And there are a few reasons for that. First of all, your manager is going to have ideas or requirements for your learning in many cases, and I'd encourage you to take those seriously and take them up on it. But when you're thinking about what you think you need to learn about, and there are any number of things that we can have formal or informal options, and those were in the poll there. Mentoring, university courses, conferences, there's any number of opportunities for learning. And I'd encourage you to think not just about what's directly germane for your current role or even your next one, and to think more broadly about your future roles. when I joined government early on, I was a policy analyst in labor market policy, and I asked and was then provided with opportunities to take courses in undergraduate economics at the University of Ottawa. Great opportunity for development, and actually made me into a better policy analyst, but it also made me a better public servant overall. As a DG, I've supported employees in the same way. So I'm not just looking at learning opportunities that are germane for the current job, but for future opportunities. And sometimes they're not. It's not clear even what the direct connection is with the current role. Managers will respond, are better equipped to respond at the very least to requests when you're actually articulating them as clearly as possible and as early in the year as possible. This time of year, it's typical that your organizations are thinking about how to allocate budgets. If you have a request that costs money, in particular, having that request early on is going to make it easier for your manager to do their best to find resources to support you. If you're coming in later, the money may be spent and you may have a lower chance. If you're requesting learning that costs money or takes time away from the office, arriving with your manager and proposing it for inclusion in your learning plan with as much detail as possible, that will help. Course dates, costs, whether you expect to need time outside the office, this will all be helpful. There's never a guarantee, but you can increase your chances of getting success in any of those things that you want to include in your learning plan. Let's speak briefly about CSPS resources for career transitions. We do have some products to guide you, not just through career transition itself. I actually think the richer set of opportunities is in learning about jobs, roles in the government that are a bit outside your own experience. We do have some career transition and career planning resources. We have an online tool that gives you a chance to try virtual interviews with an AI agent, which provides you with feedback. I haven't tried this tool out. I've heard that people like it. It also just allows you to test out your interview skills without the anxiety of having a human there looking at you. Our Deputy Minister Leadership Reflection Series actually is a set of interviews with senior and retired deputy ministers, and a lot of that is advice for new public servants. It's actually inspiring and quite useful, and I'd encourage you to have a look at those. Those are just videos. You can have a look at those anytime. The roles that we have, the courses that we have on other roles, these are actually a great way for you to explore other careers and see what they're like. They're free. If you're a public servant, you can have a look at really just about any of these courses. You want to learn about what classification is about? We have courses on classification, real property management, regulation, project management. You can test these out. You don't have to finish the courses. You can just poke around, see what you like. Nobody reports to your manager if you started it but didn't finish one of these courses. These are really just for you to explore. Not everything is in courses. We have job aids, videos, event recordings. There's quite a bit there that could give you some insight into where you think your next job or the job after that might be. And I'd encourage you to, I think others have said this, be open to ideas about things that you hadn't even thought about. I didn't think I was going to end up where I did when I started in my public service career. And in fact, most of my jobs have been opportunities that came out of other things, not things that I thought were going to be my next job. Next slide, please. All right, so I've already mentioned this. The Fin is actually, I think, better than the school is at connecting with the specific situation that many of you are in, navigating career transitions, some of you in early on in your career. The Federal Youth Network has in-person options for you, and its resources are available to you even if you're not a public servant. I would especially encourage you to think about participating, if you can, in the in-person learning days. These are taking place in every province this year. But if you cannot, or even if you can, there are great learning products on the YouTube channel and on the wiki page. And then finally, think about doing things beyond the learning offerings here. There are all kinds of informal things that you can pursue yourself, and these are actually tremendous tools to help understand and find your way through government and to open new opportunities. A mentoring relationship, for example, that doesn't need a formal mentoring program. Some of your organizations will have ones, others will not. Most executives are willing to support newer public servants in a mentoring relationship with or without a formal program. The same applies to coffee chats. You just want to find out, hey, what's life like working in this or that organization or in your role? Managers, executives across the public service are almost always willing to provide support to you, to engage in a coffee chat, to just have a discussion about where you're at, what you're looking at, and to learn more about what their organizations do. It's a bit scary. I know it can be a little bit scary, but very few, all public servants came in from the somewhere junior at some point. We've all been there, and I think you'll find that there's a willing and supportive environment from at all levels to help you if we can. And then finally, I'd say getting involved in outside organizations. Volunteering is a good example here. That will help to broaden your experience and network. If you want to keep your involvement close to your public service role, have a look at IPAC, the Institute for Public Administration in Canada. It's fairly active in a number of regions. It has regional chapters everywhere in Canada and runs learning events across Canada, besides its annual national conference. And they are always looking for volunteer help. It's a great way to make connections with folks inside the federal public service, but also outside with academic partners, other levels of government. They're a terrific place also to meet other folks. All right, I think I've burned up my time, so I'm going to pass it over to Justine Reynolds now. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning still for some. Very excited to be with you here today. This is a very important topic of conversation and also very challenging. So glad to see so many of you here taking advantage of the learning opportunities available to you and what you can do to take into your own hands what you might be facing or what you might be struggling with. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about finding jobs. This is very often a daunting task when we have to find a new job, but let's hope that it's more of an exciting opportunity for you. With change and finding new opportunities, it often means new, exciting paths for us and meeting new people across the public service. So I hope that it's, instead of being daunting, hopefully exciting and optimistic for you. I'm Justine Reynolds, Senior Advisor with the Federal Youth Network. I've now been with the FIN team for 2.5 years. Time absolutely flies. And I will be returning to my substantive department at Housing, Infrastructure and Communities next month, come April 1st. I currently co-lead the Mentorship Interdepartmental Community of Practice and the Interdepartmental Take Me With You Community of Practice. They're initiatives to bring folks together across the GC who are working on mentorship programs and involved with mentorship generally to not reinvent the wheel, create a shared space for sharing of resources, tools, and opportunities surrounding mentorship. And same goes for the Take Me With You community practice. It's a place to bring folks together who have brought Take Me With You to their departments. It's a shadow initiative to reduce silos and allow learning opportunities for young and emerging leaders. I originally joined the public service almost 14 years ago now. And at that time, the government was going through DRAP. That was around 2012. So I had a little bit of experience with a similar WFA process back then. They did call it DRAP, Deficit Reduction Action Plan. So I had a little bit of an eye-opener to what that was like, but really further along into my career now, learning much more about how the whole process works and how it affects employees and what we can do for ourselves. So I was just reflecting a little bit on that. I've had a variety of opportunities in different departments, corrections, Stats Canada, and most of my career was spent at Fisheries and Oceans Canada. So let's move on. We're going to start with a quick poll, and we'll pull it up right here. have you used social media to try and find your next position? Really curious to hear from you. So I'll give you a second or 30 seconds to submit your response. Have you used social media to try and find your next position? Yes, no, I didn't know that was possible. Alrighty. Okay, great. Most of you have said yes, that's awesome. About 47% have indicated yes, you've used social media to try and find your next opportunity. 45 said no, so we're almost 50-50. And then a few of you have said, 7% have said, I didn't know that was possible. So I'm excited to share with you that there are some alternative methods to finding jobs in addition to the standard and typical job application process through jobs.gc.ca. So traditionally, and what has been part of the process for years in the government is the traditional method of finding a job on jobs.gc.ca. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that process, but there are some more innovative and fun ways to find a job. So we're going to share those with you today. But first, let's start with the classic jobs.gc.ca formal hiring process. So this involves getting a federal public service job within the government of Canada that requires a few steps to get this done. So like I mentioned at the beginning, it can be very much a daunting process. Submitting an application online does require a significant amount of time and effort. What this entails is applying to a job. So you may have selected your requirements and your interests through the jobs.gc.ca profile. You can select different preferences and favorites in terms of departments that you want to work for, classifications and levels and groups, and possibly the region that you're in or the area that you're in for some examples of the specifications. So first off, applying to a job would be step one. Then you check your jobs.gc.ca account to see if you've been screened in. Next up, if you were screened in, you would receive a notification that you've been successfully retained into the process. Then you would be invited to do a written test and then potentially go to an interview if required. And this could be either virtual or in person. Next up in the process would be providing your references and then go through security screening. Throughout this process, you'd continually check your jobs.gc.ca account or emails to receive updates throughout the process. There is a really useful link that we've shared there, and it will be available to you. So I encourage you to check that out. It's applying for Government of Canada jobs and what to expect. So some good tips in there. So that's the basic standard process. We'll move to the next slide and we'll delve into hiring pool. So what this means, once you've been successfully retained into the application process, you'll be in what they call a pool. It's not a swimming pool, it's a pool of qualified candidates. So best case scenario, you would pass all stages of the selection process and get into the pool. There is differences between a pool and an inventory. I'm sure you've heard those words. The pool is qualified candidates that have been deemed qualified and meet all the asset and essential qualifications for that position, whereas an inventory is a bit more informal in a sense where it's a listing of folks who may be eligible for that position, but have not necessarily been deemed qualified. So that's the difference between the two. It gets confusing sometimes. So what does it mean if you're qualified into the pool? It means you're qualified and a hiring manager from that department can now use that pool to hire you for the position that you qualified for. So if you've applied for an AS2 position at Fisheries and Oceans Canada, they can pull you for that position directly, or you can also leverage your qualification in that pool for a different opportunity. So if there's another opportunity at Indigenous Services Canada that has opened up at the same level, you could use that to leverage with a hiring manager and indicate to them that you've been successful in that pool, and they can then pull you for the Indigenous Services Canada position. So very important to know that because it could come to your advantage. What it does not mean when you qualify into a pool, it does not necessarily mean that you will be selected for that job. Sadly, this is the reality. There could be thousands of applicants applying, or even hundreds, and it may not be that you are selected for that position. There could also be tons of changes that happen within that time frame. Maybe team dynamics have changed. We're going through a lot of changes right now. It could be that they're closing that team, surplusing that team, or finances have changed. They can no longer hire a student, hire a new employee, what have you. So there could be a variety of reasons why they may not be able to hire you for that position, or there was other more successful candidates. Lastly, for this point, I'll just encourage you to use the resources available to you. In every position that you're applying for, there will be a dedicated HR contact. Feel free to email them, reach out to them. They are there to help you. So if you have any questions or need to discuss anything further, feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to reach out to your manager as well. There could be cases where your manager doesn't know you're applying to positions. And you may want to use your judgment there, but of course your managers are always there to help you through these application processes and to answer questions that you might have. Perfect. All right, what do we have next? Next up, this is the fun part. I always think it's the fun part, non-traditional hiring. So there are more innovative ways that you can apply for a job. They are the informal approaches to finding a job. So what does this mean? We're referring to Facebook. There's a ton of Facebook groups, and someone on our team, if they haven't already done so, will post the link in the chat for the GC Facebook groups. There's a variety of amazing groups that you can use to your advantage, whether it's on policy. There's a policy Facebook group. There's an admin professionals group. There is one for mentorship, which I lead with my team, the mentorship community practice team. And a variety of others for the region you're in, there's specific regional groups. So check out the Facebook groups and see if there's any that are of interest to you. You could use this to make a post. Say you were qualified in a pool, you were successfully retained in that application process. You could use the Facebook groups to make a post indicating that you might be interested in a certain position. You're looking for a comms advisor role, you've been successful in an IS process, you meet these language requirements, you're located in this region, and you're excited about contributing to an impactful team, something along those lines. So feel free, if it's suitable to you, to use that to your advantage. Make a post indicating your candidacy and what you're interested in. Next up would be LinkedIn. We absolutely love LinkedIn at the Fin team and hope you do too. LinkedIn is super, super helpful when finding jobs, not just for making connections, but also finding out about job postings that might exist. There's an awesome group. It's the Government of Canada Job Opportunities, a LinkedIn page. I almost said Facebook. And it's led and coordinated by one of our colleagues, Reda. And there's job postings posted more than a few times a day. Some periods are busier than others and quieter than others, but there's a lot of opportunity to find really good opportunities and job postings on that page. So really encourage you to check that out. It's been extremely helpful for many employees. I'll go into successful posts a little bit in the next slide, but some reasons for using LinkedIn I wanted to share with you. Some benefits to using LinkedIn would be establishing a first point of connection and validation for hiring managers. So it allows them to take a look at your profile, see who you are, what accomplishments you have, what courses you've attained, and things like that. It's a snapshot of who you are professionally. It allows you to highlight your experience, education, and what you're seeking in an organized format. Highlight your professionalism with a strong profile. It gives you a new way to make connections with hiring managers and colleagues. Awesome. So now let's move into tips for a successful post. So as I alluded to before, you can feel free, if appropriate for your situation, to make a post in either the Facebook page or the LinkedIn pages to indicate what you're looking for in your next opportunity. Things you'd want to include are listed here on the slide. So these are things that we would want for a successful post that you'll attract attention from hiring managers. Post with your name allows hiring managers to do some research before contact. So avoid posting something anonymously. They won't be able to contact you. They won't know who you are. So that really doesn't have any benefit. Be clear in terms of what you're looking for. The info on pools you're in, if you've been successfully retained into a pool, you'll want to list that application number, list your SLE profile, your language profile, and anything else that might be relevant, like the region you're in, or your security clearance and anything else. Be creative to attract a hiring manager's attention. Maybe it's a picture. We love seeing pictures of people's faces. Don't be shy to post a picture if that's of interest to you, or something else to make you stand out a little bit. Be realistic about the job classification and level you're looking for. Excuse me. We have seen on some of the Facebook groups that very junior staff are looking for a very senior position. Great ambition, that's awesome. But in these times, especially, we need to be realistic and practical with what we're looking for. So just make sure that your post is in touch with what you're looking for and realistic expectations. Excuse me. And the last thing I will add to this list would be making sure that it's future focused. Maybe leaving it with a tone at the end. I'm really excited to contributing to your team and having a positive impact on a certain mandate, or having a positive tone about the team that you're leaving and a positive tone about the environment we're in. Try and keep it lighthearted and positive as much as possible, even though we know we're all going through some pretty challenging times. Okay, things to avoid. I would love to ask you all what you think should be avoided, but we don't have time to do that. So some things that make sort of a problematic post, whether it's in the Facebook groups or LinkedIn posts. Negative tone would be a common one. Speaking of a really bad manager that you had, or a negative workplace. We've seen some posts of folks saying, I had a terrible manager. I never want to see them again. I've been in a very toxic workplace. And speaking very, very negatively about the workplace and previous management or previous teams. We really want to avoid that because it doesn't reflect good on you. People who maybe don't know the ins and outs of that situation could see that perhaps you're the one that's toxic, or at least judge you for being the toxic one, for really talking so negatively about your team and your colleagues. It raises various values and ethics concerns, so we want to avoid that if possible. You can be diplomatic about that if you're having an open conversation about colleagues, but that's not something that we want to post publicly. Next up would be there's no clear ask as to the job type or experience that would apply. So perhaps you do a post, say, hi, I'm looking for a job, but not indicating exactly what you're looking for. We need to make sure it's clear as possible so that anyone seeing the post can field that message appropriately. Does not include information such as SLE profile, location, or potential hiring mechanism, so the pool that you might have qualified in. We want to make sure that those details are explicit and included as well. And then unrealistic expectations. So we mentioned this in tips for a successful post, but same goes for here. So making sure that it's not unrealistic and that you're looking for something that may be way out of your experience level at this time. Perfect. All right, I was going to share some examples, but I think we'll move on for now. Feel free to check out the Facebook pages for examples. I'm sure you'll find lots, some great ones and some not great ones. But take a look and see. There may be some folks who have done a post that you can really appreciate it and look up to, and you might want to mimic some of the posts that they've done. So best of luck. I really encourage you to try utilizing the Facebook groups and the LinkedIn groups to your advantage. I'm sure you will have some success with that. Now we're going to move on to resumes. So after finding jobs, of course, the next step comes with making sure your resume is a strong profile and really depicts who you are and what you're looking for. So Haley's going to walk us through this. Over to you, Haley. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Justine. Hi everyone, my name is Haley Ellis. I'm currently a project manager with the Federal Youth Network, but my substantive is actually an auditor at Canada Revenue. Over the years, I've been heavily involved with the Young Professionals Network at CRA in my local office. And then during the pandemic, I took advantage of getting involved with various interdepartmental networks. And that is how I ended up in my current role. So, definitely encourage you all to kind of find those networks that appeal to your interests, and get involved because you never know what opportunities might come from that. With that, I do have a really quick poll for you all about resumes. And really, what I'm wanting to learn from this is, have you used AI to work on your resume? Yes, no, I've never used AI. We'll give everyone just a couple of seconds to answer. Okay, and I see that we're fairly evenly distributed between yes and no. So hopefully after this section, we see a few more of you that are willing to give AI a try, or at least see where it might be beneficial for you. If we can move on to the next slide. AI is a great tool that we can use. There are so many free options out there that are available to us, including Copilot, which we have access to in most departments on our work devices. If you use the prompts correctly, so making sure that you use the prompt. I want it to be professional. Can you change it to be more formal? Think of what the outcome is that you want before writing a prompt, because that can dramatically change the effect of what you're hoping to get. But using prompts to have AI take a look through your resume, making sure there's no grammar and spelling errors, because this is something that if a hiring manager is taking a look at, there's a good chance if they see your resume is full of spelling and grammar errors that they're just going to pass. You can use prompts to analyze the job description and identify keywords that you should include in your resume. These are all ways that you can use to improve your writing. Please don't use it as oh, well, I used AI and I don't have to take a look at it. You still want to make sure at the end of the day that what you have in your resume is an accurate reflection of the work that you have done. So always make sure if you've used AI that you proofread. Is it still consistent with the general message that you were trying to make? Make sure that it is specific and accurate to the work you've done, not that it's a very generic response. Another thing to make sure is just read through your formal process. Make sure if there's a note in there about AI that you've paid attention. Some processes will specify either AI is allowed, but you have to include whatever prompts you've used. Some specifically say you cannot use AI. So just be mindful of that when you're applying. If there is a note about it, make sure you're abiding by that. But in general, it's a really great way to get some feedback, revise, refine, make sure that it has the right tone that you're looking for. If we move to the next slide, there are so many different types of resumes out there. None of us can get away from the plain formatted GC Jobs resume that is required by GC jobs. That's just the way it is. We can't make that prettier. It has a specific format. What we can do is have a second, shorter, ideally 1-2 pages max, that catches the attention of the hiring manager. So on this slide, we see the comparison. So we see the kind of plain text version that they have. We also see their more appealing, brief, straight to the point resume that they have to share out. Over the next couple of slides, we're going to look at a couple of different creative ways that you can edit your resume to catch people's attention. All of these are simply suggestions. You have to do whatever you feel comfortable with. There are so many tools out there that are free to use. For example, Canva. Canva has a large variety of free templates that you can use to create that resume. So if you're someone who isn't as creative, there are tools out there to help you get that really cool looking resume that'll stand out and catch the hiring manager's attention without necessarily needing that creative background. So if we go to the next slide, here's another option. So instead of your standard, here's the 1-page resume, this individual has used a Trello board. So I'm not sure how many people have used Trello, but again, it's just another way of collecting the information. So this would have a shareable link. They've got their description. They've outlined their key skills, their employment history, education, training. So if people want their information, they can send them the link to the Trello board, and there is everything that that person would need. Moving on to the next slide. In this case, they used a Miro. So again, another really creative way. They have their board set up. In this case, they've got a couple of different approaches. So they have their plain text resume where they have a lot more detail. They have some quotes. They've got different things that highlight work they've done. They've used their digital academy stuff, so they've got all of the post-it notes for things they've achieved. So another really creative way to highlight their work. When doing this, think about the job that you are trying to apply for. So if this is something where you're applying for like customer experience or digital positions, then trying to highlight the different ways that you can use digital tools in your resume. It's great because you're showing your skills in how you've created that. Moving on, just as a really quick conclusion, when facing career uncertainty, take stock of what's in your control and outside of your control. Be deliberate in planning out your learning and development. Understand the learning platforms that are accessible both within the GC and outside of the GC. Invest time in networking on LinkedIn and Facebook by joining the groups. And it's a great way to hear about those options. And know that you're not alone. Many employees are facing career uncertainty, and there are so many resources available to help. And things like resumes, we did a really quick overview of some different kinds of resumes today, but we do have a more in-depth workshop coming up later in the month. So be sure to join that if you have additional questions or need some more inspiration about revising your resume. With that, I will turn it back to Fatima to lead the questions period.
Hello. We will move on to the question from the audience. So reminder, you may use the Q&A function. You can upvote whichever questions that you are more interested in. And let's get straight to it. Please answer the questions as quickly as possible so that we can cover more material. I will ask the questions and then one of the panelists will answer. The others can add or discuss so long as we keep it moving. Any resources mentioned will be shared on our wiki page after the event. Okay, it looks like our most requested question is, what are the key differences between crafting a resume for GC jobs versus informal hiring processes, and how can I make this resume stand out in both scenarios? I believe Justine is going to answer this.
Sure. I was going to say Haley because she's the resume expert, but I can take a stab at it. Key differences between crafting a resume for GC jobs versus informal hiring processes. So for GC jobs, it will be a very structured resume. You're often, well, not often, you are required to input your answers directly into the application portal. So it's just standard text, standard writing. We do recommend that you copy and paste and save those answers somewhere else. This is a pro tip so that you don't have to redo your answers every time you're submitting an application. So make sure if you don't have a standard set of responses saved somewhere that you save it in a Google Drive, Word document, whatever it is that works for you. Save those answers so that you're not reinventing the wheel and having to write them up again the next time. So jobs, GC jobs, very basic, I guess you could say, and standard basic text. For informal hiring processes, that's where you have the opportunity to do those fun, creative resumes like Haley just showed us. Use visuals, be creative, use colors, make it pretty. Oftentimes people love to see who you are. Show your pictures, show your LinkedIn profile or another professional picture that shows who you are. Sometimes people even choose not to do a profile picture and show a picture that depicts who they are. We've seen people use scenery or travel photos that really depict who they are. There's opportunities to make it creative and show who you are. So the informal hiring processes would be the opportunity where you can make it more fun, creative, showcase your talents and showcase who you are really. That would be somewhere where you could post on Facebook or LinkedIn, like we talked about, or even if you're emailing with someone, a hiring manager, you could feel free to attach your creative resume there. I think I gave a quick highlight of the differences between the two. Anyone want to add to that?
Sure. Maybe I'll just add quickly in terms of informal contacts. So if you're going through like a GC Facebook group, and in general, be very wary, very careful about your spelling and your grammar. If you reach out to a hiring manager and you sent something that's 2 sentences and it already has spelling or grammar errors, I know I will immediately kind of have that reflect upon my view of the candidate. Similarly, if you're linking to your LinkedIn profile, make sure that it's well written, well prepared. You have a professional headshot on there, or a professional looking headshot. We provide headshots at many of our events. I will say they're professional looking. None of us have taken any course in headshot photography, so I can't say it's a professional headshot, but it's a professional looking headshot. But just be very careful about that because it's the first impression. So you don't want that first impression to be like, this person either can't spell or can't write or doesn't put enough attention into what they are doing.
Before I get to the next question, sorry, both Justine and Haley. I got you mixed up. My apologies. And on to the next question. How can I effectively develop a learning plan that aligns with my career goals and future job opportunities? Eric?
Thanks very much. So yeah, I tried to touch on this a little bit in my opening notes, and I'll welcome views from others here. And I actually saw one of the comments in a different question was somebody who has been invited only to contribute current job opportunity learning that is germane only to the current job that they have, and that's going to happen sometimes. You're going to have managers that may not actually be open to any at all. This is your goal here is to make the most of what is available to you. I would say that first of all, the most reliable source of learning that you might need, that you might be unaware of, is your team, your supervisor, your manager. You will have colleagues that you can consult with. Hey, how did you learn how to do this? What else do you have? What do you recommend? Good courses you've taken, other resources that are available to you. Those are all great ways to think about learning opportunities that are ahead of you. You're going to have personal interests. You're going to have things that have caught your attention that you want to know more about. Certainly, if you're going to develop a learning plan and get support for it from your managers, they're going to want to see that you've done your homework, that you've actually identified, explored various ways of achieving those learning goals. Coming forward and saying, "Hi, I want to do an MBA. Will you pay for it?" may not actually be the way to start. You may want to come forward and say, "Hey, listen, I'm thinking about advancing my career, and I can see myself in a management role. What are some things that you'd suggest I do?" And maybe we think about aspiring directors program at the school, or some targeted courses that will help you to think about leadership, for example. These are great ways to do that. I think dialogue with your team, if you have a supportive team leader or supervisor or manager, this is really the best way to do that. The other thing I would do is think about, if you have career aspirations or ideas about other jobs, when you have those coffee chats, when you reach out to people that you don't necessarily know, and I saw some questions about this. Yes, this is a thing you should do if you're interested in thinking about other careers. Those are things you can ask people. What is the learning that was essential for you in your role as a regulator, as a manager, whatever it is. What would you recommend that I do? What are some opportunities that I should pursue? And those don't have to be, again, formal learning opportunities. They could actually be people I should talk to, networks I should join. Maybe unconventional ways of identifying learning, and those are going to be things that are, even if you have a manager that is not necessarily equipped to spend money on courses outside of government, they're more likely to provide support to you in career development that doesn't cost anything, and where they can actually see that there's some value to you as in your career development. I don't know if that helps, and others may have other responses.
Okay. It doesn't seem like anyone else has anything else to add. Let's move on to the next one. How can I stay motivated and maintain a positive mindset while navigating career transitions during periods of organizational change and staffing reductions? I believe Sam is the one for this question.
Yeah, I can hop in on this one. Yeah, I totally understand being in that position and how tough that can be. I will say, I think the narrative you create for yourself as well is really important. You're in a challenging situation. Like we talked about earlier, acknowledging that, processing that. I'm not saying stuff down your feelings and don't, acknowledge what's in front of you, but reframing that mindset and looking at, okay, what's in my control, like we talked about. I think seeking support from people who have been through this before, maybe, or just have more experience, or your friends and family, just to be able to talk it through, and then looking at what actions you can take. I think that being action oriented is really important in finding ways that you can reframe the situation, remain positive, and not get stuck in where you are right now. Um, it's really easy for that to happen, but yeah, I think finding things outside of work too that can keep you feeling a bit more steady. So, like I mentioned, for me, that's volleyball. I need to go and spike some volleyballs around to help myself feel a little bit better. And then that can make me feel more clear-headed when I go into a work situation. And yeah, if it's a difficult one, like losing your term or trying to figure out what's next in your career, being able to um, lean on those around you, finding new opportunities. What actions can you do? Maybe that's volunteering. It might feel like you're limited in capacity if you're going through something that feels emotionally heavy and taking a toll. But ultimately, it is investing in yourself. And I think that those actions will be really important moving forward. But I'll open it up to my fellow panelists as well to see if they have any other tips and tricks.
Sure, maybe I'll just jump in quickly and say, be careful of what you take on emotionally. So if you are going through a WFA, that is a lot to deal with yourself. If you are in a department where colleagues or friends are affected, you can be supportive, but just try not to take on too much of that baggage. Try to navigate your own situation, and you can be supportive of colleagues. You can listen, but just try not to take everything on because you cannot necessarily impact that. You can be helpful, you can be supportive. Just be aware of your own mental health and do reach out through EAP. We also have much better supports in terms of psychological services through our health plan than we did in previous years. You're now covered for up to $5,000 at 80%, and make use of those resources.
On to the next question. I'll throw that one to the room. What are some of the most valuable free learning resources available within the Fin ecosystem? Anyone?
Okay, I will jump in. Honestly, I think we have a wide variety of resources on our wiki page that you can go back and take a look at. These range from resume templates, like we looked at in this slide deck, how to apply for jobs, interviews, like everything that you could imagine relating to career development. We also have all of the recordings from all of our previous sessions on the Fin YouTube channel. So that's a really great way to go back and listen to some prior learning. For all of the career bootcamp workshops, we have the podcasts on Spotify. So if you're busy and you can't access things, but maybe you go for a walk or a jog, then you could throw the podcast on while you're doing that and listen and take in that information that way. So we have lots of resources from all of our previous events. As far as the upcoming workshops, I really encourage you all to follow the GC Career Transition Center of Excellence. There's going to be a lot of virtual workshops coming up on things like resumes and interviews. We also have the Fin in-person learning days, which are taking place in every province across the country between spring and fall this year. So it's a great way to get out and network with other people in your area. I will say, honestly, for me, the first event that I attended in person was actually back pre-pandemic before when Crew Bootcamp was still in person. And as someone who spent all of their career up until the point I joined Fin at Canada Revenue Agency, I really hadn't seen kind of what life was like in a different department until I went to that event. And just having the opportunity to network and hear from people from all different government departments was great. And it just opened up a whole different level of opportunities and changed where I thought that my career would go. So definitely encourage if there's one taking place in a city near you, make sure you register. We also have the Future Leaders Forum. So we piloted that last year in several provinces. This year, in the spring, we're going and offering that in the provinces that we didn't visit before. So uh, all of the information is on our learning hub. Take a look, register for the events, get out and meet people.
Having had the privilege to attend a few of those, I have to say they are really fun and informative. Last year we did speed mentoring, and that was really, really interesting because you get to connect across different um, departments and across different fields, and just expands your reach and understanding like what's out there. Definitely really recommend it. And on to our next question. It would be from Philip or Felipe. What are your thoughts on cold emailing hiring managers directly? I'm thinking of using that strategy to access some of the hidden job market in the Government of Canada. Anyone?
Sure, maybe I can jump in and maybe pass to Eric after. I will share my experience that I will say this can be as useful as the time that you put into it. But if you put in very little time and effort and you just say, look for everyone who has a position of manager or director general across the Government of Canada and email 400 people, the chances are that 396 of them are going to delete that email immediately if it is not tailored in any way. So I used to receive these back when we were housed at the Canada School of Public Service. And it would go to 500 or 600 managers across the GC. They would say, here's my resume. It wouldn't really say like why I was on this list other than I had a title of manager and then, here you go. Here's my resume. So I would just as a practice delete those emails immediately. However, if somebody emailed me personally and said, hey, Josh, I was very taken with what you shared about the Federal Youth Network. I'm really interested in working and learning. Do you have 20, 30 minutes for a virtual coffee? I'd like to hear more about the organization and I'm interested in pursuing learning as a career path. Would you have a time for a chat? Folks like myself and Eric and folks who work in a learning sphere or in whatever sphere are more open to that when there isn't a specific ask other than your time. But if there's a specific ask of like, can you hire me? Then that kind of gets to a question of like, am I hiring right now? And based on the way that you reached out, would I be interested in hiring you or not? So I think asking for information can open up those possibilities. 6 months down the line, I might say, hey, I had a good chat with, Josiane, and Josiane had talked about, what she would bring to the workforce and how she was interested in getting into a learning sphere. And those kind of chats can be very helpful to help kind of develop your career, but it might be a future connection, but it's not an immediate ask of, can you hire me right now? But definitely put in the effort to personalize it. Otherwise, 99% of the time, people are just going to delete those emails.
Josh, I agree with everything you said. And I do indeed get those sort of bulk emails that usually just end up in the trash because I don't have. If it's not clear what the fit is or why I'm on the list, indeed, there isn't going to be necessarily an occasion for that for me to open it up and pursue it. Philippe, your question says hiring managers, and so that there's an implication there that that's somebody that is hiring. And certainly if you're seeing a poster on LinkedIn or on Facebook, for example, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to do that. You may just want to find out more about the job. You may actually, they're not going to hire you, especially because they had a meeting with you, but it'll be a chance for you to explore what they're looking for, to present yourself better when you do apply. You can also find out what else is going on in their organization. I think one of the things we're seeing is that even though the posters that are up on the GC jobs board are down, that doesn't mean no hiring is happening. Like, there is all kinds of hiring happening in various places. Some of it's going to be shorter term stuff. Some of it's going to be maybe actually be done on the fly. As somebody leaves, we need to find a replacement. So hiring managers may know of other opportunities. If you came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm an instructional designer and I'd like to work on your team," I might say to you, "Well, I don't have a position in your role, but I actually, and in fact, I do know some other parts of the school that are looking and have positions available, and I can connect you with those folks." The last thing I would say is, if you're looking for a position, and this is if you do this in writing, or you just send an email, or you have a chat, be very upfront with specifics. The hiring manager is going to need to know that you have the requisite language requirements, security requirements, and that you live in the area of selection that they're looking for. I can't tell you how many times people have talked to me, asked for a sit down, and then I find out sort of well down the road that, okay, I have a position in Winnipeg, so can I work here? That's a question to ask right at the beginning, right? Is that a scenario that would actually be possible? In some cases, it is. But you're wasting everybody's time by not actually just getting to that question early on.
Okay, on to the next question. Can you provide specific examples of successful job searches using Facebook and LinkedIn groups, and what are common pitfalls to avoid? What things to avoid generally?
Sure, maybe
Justin?
I'll jump in and provide a little bit, and then pass off to Justine. But I think some of the material we covered, I think, is very key. Make sure that your message is positive. It doesn't matter what your situation is in terms of why you are leaving your current job. It matters what you're looking for in the future. So focus on the sort of future orientation. And otherwise, I would say in terms of Facebook groups, be clear on what you're looking for. If you're posting on a group and you're seeking a job, be clear on, like, I am an IS4 looking for a lateral move. That is my substantive role, all that sort of stuff. Make it as easy as possible for a hiring manager. And similarly on LinkedIn groups, like, respond to jobs that you can actually get. Because otherwise, like, as Eric just mentioned, like, just don't waste anyone's time. If I say I am hiring for an IS4 at-level position for a 12-month secondment, then please don't approach me and say, "Hey, I'm an IS3, but can you act me up? And also I'm a term," and, like, just try to be as responsive to the ad. But if you're posting an ad, be as clear as possible in terms of what you're seeking. If you're seeking an acting opportunity, be very upfront with that. If you're seeking a lateral move, be very clear on your substantive classification.
Not much to add to that, Josh. That was perfect. But I encourage you to check out some examples on the Facebook pages. We have another presentation that we hosted for our in-person learning day a couple of years ago that has specific examples. So you can reach out if you want more actual examples of posts anonymously. But check out the pages. Look yourself. You'll see some that you might be like, "Oh, that's a wonderful post," and that one's not so great. It's posted anonymously, very negative, so on. So check them out. I'm sure you'll be able to use your judgment to see which ones you can pull from and which ones you should not pull from. And good luck. It's a great resource to use, Facebook and LinkedIn, and go for it. I'm excited to get into the next question, though. Fatima, can I do it? Okay, great.
Go for it.
So the next one looks like the next most upvoted one is about how to find and approach a mentor. Josh and Eric gave some tips on how to approach a mentor. I think reaching out to a hiring manager and approaching a mentor is often similar, and that you want to have some connection, some ask that you're asking for. So Josh gave the example of, "Hey, I saw your presentation today at the workshop. I was really interested in the information you shared on this. Would you be interested in meeting for a coffee? I'm interested in learning for more." So have a specific ask, have a reason for your connection. That'll go a really, really long way. So that's the first off in terms of how to approach a mentor. And go for it. The worst thing they're going to say is, no, I don't have time for you, or delete your email. But go for it. Just make sure that you're set up for success and have carefully thought about it and crafted your response before. Have a colleague review it first if you feel that that would be beneficial. But to touch on how to find a mentor, on the GC Wiki page, the Federal Youth Network Wiki, there is a section for mentorship resources. Check those out. There's lots of good resources there. One of our favorite resources is the Mentorship Living Library. So that's an active listing of mentors. And it is now being formatted to be listed by location. So please excuse us. It's currently being updated, but it will be soon listed by location of where the mentors are located for their work location. So check out the Living Library. See if there's some mentors that might be a good fit for you to connect with, whether it's based on their interests, where they're located, their job title, or their areas of expertise. There's also opportunities to reach out to, seek out mentorship programs within your department. Ask HR or feel free to send me a message and I can see if there's a mentorship program that we're aware of in your department. That would be a great way to find an internal mentor. A lot of departments have great successful programs, so there may be one in your department. But otherwise, if there is not, there's a lot of interdepartmental opportunities like the Living Library page. And lastly, I'll share at the in-person learning days and future leaders forums coming up, there will be speed mentoring as part of that day. So if you want to meet people in person in your area, that would be a fantastic way to do that. And then you can always reach out to them later and say, hey, I really appreciated meeting you. Thanks for your time. Would you be interested in having a coffee with me? So go for it and good luck.
I want to thank all of the panelists. We are approaching towards the end of our session today. I have learned a lot, and I hope all of you have learned a lot as well. We'll definitely look at the recording on the YouTube page, on the Fin-RJF YouTube page, or check out the podcast. If you have any questions until our next time together. If you want to know anything more about these topics, we also recommend that you check the CBC 2025 Wiki resource page. And as a quick recap, today we've talked about taking care of your mental health and well-being during these uncertain times and learning what support options is available. We gain knowledge about how to optimize your learning and how to better craft a resume, and both formal and informal hiring processes and the do's and don'ts of reaching out or using social media for job searches and networking. We do have a final polling question for you. The results of this poll will not be shared. So did this workshop meet your needs today? I'll leave you a couple seconds to answer. We really appreciate any answers. I'm seeing lots of reactions. That's great. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. And all the resources mentioned during today's session will be sent to you in a post-event email. In addition, we will send you the links to all our programming, including our in-person learning events, which I definitely recommend. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I have attended a couple of them and they're incredible. Highly recommend. It's a full day where you get to meet colleagues and peers across different departments in your area. Wonderful. It takes place across 25 cities across the country in the spring and fall. And we also have all the video programming including this event that will be available on YouTube. Thank you very much and hope to have you soon.